if you're someone with OCD, dealing with pets and end of life stuff, I mean, it is so complicated. I've come across so many clients who are struggling with the idea of, did I put my animal down too soon? Should I put my animal down? Were they ready? And then all the things of like, did I help them enough? And so if you are experiencing any of those worries, questions, and situation, this episode, all right. So as you know, OCD makes you second guess yourself all the time. And there's like a logical side of your brain, then there's this OCD voice going on. And those two voices are constantly competing with each other. And when you're in a full OCD flare, that other voice is much, much louder and just really takes over and creates intrusive thoughts. So, in this pet loss series, we're going to talk about 4 different things. First, why it hurts so much, why the OCD spirals after your pet passed. We're going to talk about coping tools for that season of life. And in the last episode of this series, we're going to talk about continuing your bond and the next steps after pet loss. So in terms of why this pet loss hurts so much is because obviously your pet is near and dear to you. They give you unconditional love. They've been with you through so many things. A lot of people attach their pets to memories like, oh, this animal was with me when I first got married. This pet was with me when I had my first baby. And it's like all of those things just get wrapped up into the memories. And people also worry about that they're going to forget about their pet or their loved one. It's really, really hard in those first few days after pet loss, too, because all your animals' things are still in the house. So it's completely normal and common. Actually, I hate the word normal, but it's very common to feel the weight of the loss, OCD or not, because our animals give us a lot of emotional benefits and it's hard when they're gone. And so let me give you an example from a story from one of my clients, and all the details are anonymized, if you will. So with Rosie, chill. For Sarah, she even made arrangements, which is amazing that they have the service these days, which is like a hospice level pet intervention. I'd never heard of it before. All right, so even though the end of life for her dog was scheduled, it was like in the following days, she went to work right after, and it was like a total disaster. I mean, she felt like she couldn't breathe, she couldn't sleep, she couldn't eat. And then sitting at work, she was just staring at the screen and was like, what am I even doing here? She asked the vet multiple times if her dog was at the end of their life, if there was anything else they could do. And then that hospice interventionist, they have their own quality of life screeners. So that kind of gives you another indication of where your animal is, with their quality of life. And what I've seen so many times, but even getting back to Sarah, like pet owners with OCD, they just torment themselves. Am I making the right decision? And that second guessing is excessive. And then the amount of distress that is unbearable. And a lot of people, just like Sarah, they've been through that before. And so for Sarah, she was reaching out to her mom, her aunt, her sister, all of which have put animals down. And they're like, oh, yeah, I felt the same way. But in reality, when you have OCD, it's like 10 times worse because afterward, she went through all of those spirals. And I've seen it in more than just Sarah, where she was like, did I do it too soon? What if he still had good days left? Did I miss signs earlier that I could have saved him? What if he wasn't in pain? He still had his appetite, so maybe he could have enjoyed a couple more meals. And so Sarah scheduled an emergency appointment with me thinking, originally she'd be fine and we just have our regular normal appointment. But after all that, she was like, nope, I cannot handle this. I can't even work. And she called out of work that day. And so what really helped Sarah, we'll kind of go through this journey together. But in starting off for today's episode, I want to let you know that pet loss is very hard. And it's even harder when you have OCD because again, those animals mean so much to you, but not only do they mean so much and you love them so much, but they were a part of your daily routine and structure. Now Sarah doesn't have a dog to rush home to, her source of unconditional love. There's also just the emotional support they give you. Like they know when you're having a hard day, and it's very easy to default to your animals too, to just get out of bed on some days. Like, Well, I got to get up and feed Rosie. And research shows that the bond with pets can be as strong as bonds with humans. So when you lose a pet, you're experiencing real, legitimate grief. And the other thing, our society tends to minimize pet loss. They'll say, oh, it's just an animal. Everything dies. Get over it. Or go get a new puppy. Oh my gosh. So none of those pieces of advice helps. Third thing, OCD amplifies everything, as I've already alluded to. Normal grief does include some what ifs, and I've got on grief with Dr. Heather Taylor. She's a psychologist out in Washington State, and she's one of my good friends if you want to check out those episodes. But when it comes to the pet loss, OCD takes normal thoughts completely out of context and turns them into obsessions where you're just looping on them over and over and over. You're not really solving anything. You're not finding any healing. For example, a normal grief thought is, I wonder if I made the right choice about euthanasia. An OCD thought is like, I murdered my pet. I'm a terrible person. And then you go on Google researching everything. So overall, pet loss is hard no matter who you are. And if you have OCD, it can be even harder. So I would like for you to do this exercise that really validates your experience. So start with saying, my grief is real and valid. Okay. Next, it's my pet mattered deeply to me. Next is I did the best I could with what I knew at the time. And also, last but not least, I am allowed to grieve without having all the answers. All right. Because OCD, you have a hard time with the uncertainty pieces, and obviously your pet can't talk to you. It's really hard to make those decisions, especially on behalf of your pet. So we're going to get into more of strategies, coping skills, and how to move on after pet loss in the following episodes. So today we talked about why pet loss hurts so much, especially when you have OCD. We've normalized that grief experience, and we've explained why society makes it harder. And we've practiced one grounding technique with those affirmations and points of validation. If you are experiencing pet loss, I encourage you to share one favorite memory of your pet with someone you trust, not because you're analyzing it or confessing it, but it's just to honor your pet's life. In the next episode, we're going to dive into the specific OCD spirals that happen after pet loss, how to recognize them, and what to do with them. And if you need professional support for your OCD, please reach out. You don't have to navigate this alone. And remember, your grief is valid, your pet mattered, and you're allowed to hurt without having all the answers. If you want to be in touch for a therapy session, check out the link in the show notes. I've got an OCD Intensives program, which is a 3-week deep dive into your OCD spirals that gives you 35 to 50% reduction of your symptoms in as little as 3 weeks. So think about it as an intensive opportunity to get quick relief without years of therapy. And again, link is in the show notes to schedule a consult. All right, take care, stay blessed by the best.